Hi, my name is Kaleb Hagge, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the experience that I've gained this past school year with conducting research with Dr. Matthew Bejar. In the past, Dr. Matthew Bejar and his colleagues conducted a study that examined how NCAA Division I student athletes perceived that their athletic trainer enhanced their basic psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and how they believe that played a role in their overall motivation. Our current study is a follow-up to the previous study in looking at how athletic trainers believe that they enhance their student athletes' basic psychological needs and how it plays a role in their overall motivation during their sport injury rehabilitation. In the past, athletic trainers have noted a desire to learn more about what motivates athletes during rehab, and our current study lends a helping hand to those athletic trainers by helping them understand how enhancing basic psychological needs can play a role in motivation during rehabilitation. Previous scholars have noted that self-determined motivation and self-motivation have an impact on rehabilitation. Self-determined motivation has been noted or has been stated to have a predictor effect on their rehabilitation intentions, whereas self-motivation can influence rehabilitation adherence. Our study is utilize the self-determination theory, which was proposed by DC and Ryan. DC and Ryan state that all humans have three basic psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And when those basic psychological needs are enhanced, athletes will have more self-determined motivation, which then leads to better cognition, affect, and behaviors. So when athletes have a sense of relationships or enhanced relationships with those around them, their relatedness is enhanced. Competence is the idea of being able to complete a task to the best of your ability that has a meaningful impact on your environment. And autonomy is the idea of having a sense of ownership or choice within your environment. When these three needs are met, self-determined motivation is increased, and then that leads athletes to have better thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Dr. Bejar's previous study stated that athletes' motivation for rehab was facilitated by the athletic trainer's enhancement of their basic psychological needs. And our current study looked at how athletic trainers satisfy the basic psychological needs and how that plays a role in motivating their student athletes and how it has an overall effect on their rehabilitation. Our current study had 13 participants, 8 female and 5 male, with varying years of experience and varying job titles as well. For our procedures, we had 4 investigators. 2 investigators were sport and exercise psychology professionals. The third investigator was a doctoral student in sport and exercise psychology. And the fourth investigator was an undergraduate with a psychology major and a sport health and exercise psychology minor. We conducted semi-structured interviews based off a semi-structured interview guide, which was based off of the Dr. Bejar's previous study. After the interviews were then audio recorded and transcribed verbatim, and then the transcriptions were then sent to the participants to utilize member checking, where the participants were able to alter or change the transcripts to make sure it aligned with what they were trying to say. We also used convenient and purposive sampling, meaning that the athletic trainers had to be from an NCAA Division I institution, and they had to have a athletic trainer certification. We use a deductive approach to thematic analysis, meaning that our themes for our study were already formed. So we used autonomy, competence, and relatedness, the 3 basic psychological needs, and then we found themes within the transcripts that fit under those original themes. The 3 themes that we came up with were, the first one was how athletic trainers attempted to foster relatedness by cultivating trusting connections. Theme 2 was athletic trainers attempted to foster competence by engendering mastery during rehabilitation. And theme 3 was athletic trainers attempted to foster autonomy by promoting a sense of ownership in the rehabilitation environment. So looking at the relatedness theme, we had 3 sub-themes. The first sub-theme was keeping the athletes connected with their teammates in practice. And by doing this, athletes were able to keep the team aspect with them and making sure that they aren't feeling alone or alienated from their friends and teammates. Athletic trainers did this by incorporating their rehabilitation exercises at practice on the sidelines. And then athletic trainers also noted that developing a personal relationship with the athletes was important. So making sure to get to know the athlete outside of sport and outside of their rehab, making sure that you understand that they are a person as well. So a couple of quotes that were noted. Rick states that doing exercises at practice helps show the teammates that their teammate is working hard to get better and to get back to the team. And then Christine talks about how showing the athletes that you care by your actions rather than your words helps build a stronger relationship with the athletic trainer and the athlete. Looking at competence, the 4 sub-themes that we came up with, or that we noted, were 2 of them talked about educating the athlete, so making sure that the athlete knows what their injury is and how it affects them, and then also educating them about their rehab. Athletic trainers also talked about designing progressively challenging exercises, so starting them off in the beginning of their rehab experience with easier exercises and then progressively getting challenging as they go along. Here are a couple quotes. Adam talks about how making sure that the athlete realizes that they're doing things correctly can lead them to make them feel like they're getting more of a benefit out of their exercise, and that's going to have an impact on their overall well-being. And then Julie talks about how she starts her athletes out with a light and easy program, and then as they get stronger and they get better, she progressively makes it more challenging to make sure that they're getting better along the way. And then finally, looking at autonomy. The first sub-theme of autonomy is making sure to provide athletes choice or options within their exercises. So some athletic trainers noted that giving the athlete like 3 or 4 exercises to choose from, and then letting the athlete choose which exercise they wanted to do, made the athlete feel more autonomous and helped them have a sense of choice within their environment. But when giving the athlete options is not always possible or necessary, it's important for the athletic trainers to offer rationale for their rehabilitation decisions, making sure that the athletes understand that why they're doing something and how it has a benefit to them and their overall well-being. So a couple of quotes. Aurora talks about how she doesn't like to do treatments that the athlete doesn't believe is important. So this kind of alludes to the second sub-theme, and how taking into account the athlete's feedback and making sure to utilize that. And Nicole talks about how making sure the athlete knows why they're doing something and keeping them in the loop helps them feel like they are having an impact and that what they're doing is impacting their overall well-being. And then it's important to note that these needs can be met synergistically, and that you don't have to meet one need all at once, and that one need can actually have an impact on all of the other needs as well. A couple of the athletic trainers noted that by enhancing relatedness, they also noticed that competence and autonomy were then followed as well. Interestingly enough, the athletic trainers noted that the importance of keeping the athlete involved with the team was a very important way to improve relatedness, whereas the athletes noted that it was important for the athletic trainer to have availability and flexibility in their scheduling, and as well as also having competence in setting goals and helping the athletes set goals. So some practical implications that we discussed. First, for relatedness, it's important to keep the athlete involved with the team at practice. So making sure that the athlete can utilize their practice time to be with their teammates and do their exercises on the sideline, and then making sure to take an interest in the athlete's life beyond sport. For competence, making sure to educate the athlete about what they're doing and how what they're doing is affecting them. And then making sure to design the rehabilitation program progressively and making sure that you start the athlete out with exercises that they know they'll be able to complete, and then progressively get harder as they move along. And then always provide instruction with positive feedback. And then for autonomy, when it's possible, give the athlete a sense of choice, or give them choices within reason for their rehabilitation. And when that's not possible, making sure to provide a rationale as to why they're doing a specific exercise. And then always making sure to acknowledge and incorporate the athlete's feedback when they give it to you. And then some future directions that we would like to take this study. We'd like to interview both NCAA Division II, Division III, as well as NAIA athletic trainers to kind of get an overall view of all athletic trainers in the collegiate sport era. And then looking at how the 7 classes of autonomy supportive behavior, which was noted by Mago and Valorand, and how that, and look at those supportive behaviors from both the athletic trainer as well as the athlete perspective. Finally, I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you learned and enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed and learned my experience conducting research with Dr. Beachar and his colleagues. Thank you very much.